So hello everyone, I'm Hannah Absalom.
And I'm Alex.
And this is session 3 on our sort of cancer journey story. So if you've not watched the others, watch them first. But we're going to dive a bit more this week into spiritual warfare, because we feel this is spiritual warfare. Mm-hmm. We don't think it's a coincidence that the enemy is going after Alex's voice, cancer of the larynx. Come on, it's not exactly subtle. And so it's just, so we're finding ourselves on this journey, but you're going to obviously have lots of experience of spiritual warfare too, in whatever way that looks like for you. And so it's, what can we do in those moments of spiritual warfare?
Yeah, and just one word is related to us. So we're leaders in the kingdom. You are leaders in the kingdom. Some of you are in positions in your church, in your community to do this. But if there's anyone looking to you, you're a leader in the kingdom. And I think sometimes what happens when you have a situation like this is the enemy is going to tempt us to withdraw. So there's a little bit of, not for long, but there's a little bit in my head where I just kind of want to hunker down and pull back from people. And
we did do that for a few days. We went away for a few days, but that was okay.
Yeah, that was okay. And partly that was planned because it was surgery on my throat and I wasn't meant to be talking. So, but yes, we had a little bit of retreat time. And I think, like you said, that's okay to have a little retreat, but you retreat in order to advance. And whilst you can't constantly be putting yourself out there for everyone, I think Hannah mentioned in a previous video, we'd sent out text to people because that was more emotionally doable for us rather than have to engage with every individual person as they responded and respond to their emotions in that moment. But nevertheless, we feel that as leaders in the kingdom, when you go through a situation like this, actually it's an opportunity to be more public. So whether it's, say, in your group that you're part of, or your church family, or at work, or wherever it is where you're representing Jesus, there's the public facing part of this actually is a chance to extend the kingdom. It's a chance to show how Christians do this. We talked about theology of suffering last time. How do you do that well? How do you be someone who's a person of faith and not expectation, but we trust. Expectation is good, not entitlement. Now, how do we look to the Lord in these moments and trust Him for provision, for supernatural healing, for help along the way, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So it's really a chance to model how to do life well in a kingdom-oriented, Jesus-pleasing manner, even when things are a bit sucky.
Because there aren't lots of models out there, basically, are there? And I think to have more models is helpful.
Yeah.
But, I mean, because we'd actually had this word from someone, again, talking last time about how the prophetic in this season's just been so helpful and encouraging. But we had this word about an American football field. And you have all these, like, I don't understand, I hope I'm not going to mess this up, because I do not understand.
But it's okay, yes. It's a
sport
false sport anyway,
all.
so it's,
But you have all these lines, and basically the goal is to get this not ball-shaped ball,
pigskin,
down into the end zone to score a touchdown, and that's when you get the points. Even I understand that. And so basically, but you have all these different yard lines, and you just want to keep getting it further and further down the field until you get it down into the touchdown zone. And so you're laughing at me trying to
keep going, babe. This is like listening to NFL commentary. Yes.
Yeah. And so basically, it's like that often we're not going to get the immediate touchdown just with one prayer, but by the almost cumulative prayers of people and doctors' interventions and stuff, we are sort of gaining ground. It's another line, and we're moving the ball further up the field of play rather than just one long run slam dunk. Here that's
slam dunk is a
mixing
different
sports.
Yes.
But getting it over the line.
Very good, darling.
Yeah, well, for all those non-Americans who
Yes.
are watching, this will hopefully be helpful.
Yes, exactly.
Or the Americans.
Okay.
Anyway, so, but of course, sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards. And the whole point is that it's not a one and done thing. This is a process. Often we are moving forwards, but sometimes actually it feels like we're moving backwards. So like, initially we heard there were precancerous cells, and then we hear actually this is cancer. So that was taking some steps backwards. And you never know when the next backward step's gonna happen, but it's this overall picture of the ball is being moved down the field, but it just takes time and is a process. And don't give up hope, because we are moving in the right direction.
And without over pushing the analogy, there's also that point where suddenly you might just get the gap and whoosh, you're through.
Happens.
So we're looking and praying for that as well. We wanted to think about spiritual warfare by sharing 5 simple steps. How do you have overcoming, how do we overcome the spiritual battle in this situation? So we just sort of 5 things that would be helpful for that. So the first one is, so I'm facing cancer. There's a spiritual battle going on. We really do feel like Hannah has shared, the enemy is having a go. But I think the first step is to recognise when there's a particular way of thinking that I'm being tempted to think and operate through, that's not going to grow me closer to Jesus. In fact, it might even be drawing me away from the Lord. I should be choosing ways of thinking that help me look more like Jesus, more Christ-like. So an example of an unhelpful mindset would be to choose resentment at God for letting me have cancer. And that's a very tempting thought. But it's not a healthy one. It's not one that's going to help me overcome in the battle. So I have to recognise that that's a way of thinking that's not going to be useful.
Or attractive.
Yes. It's not Christ-like. And so I go, no, that's not from the Lord. I'm actually going to choose the opposite mindset in response to that.
The second one is asking Jesus for his perspective on the situation, because of course his is often different to ours, and his is always better. And so sometimes, it's this big picture perspective. So I think some of the things that I've been thinking, I don't know, I just see, how other people are being impacted positively, and I think, okay, that's not why we're going through this, but that is a yay, thank you Lord moment of a byproduct of why we're going through this. And but sometimes it's just one little thing of, this is bad, this is not good, but I love you and I'm giving you this moment of peace. So it's just, what does the Lord want to do? And sometimes that's going to chop and change in any given moment. So it's not always going to be the same. Sometimes the bigger picture will be the same, but what he wants to reveal in any given moment might not or always be the same.
So I recognise when I've got thoughts that aren't from the Lord, I ask Jesus for his perspective. I think the third thing we can do is I take that thought captive, the negative thoughts captive, and replace it with God's perspective, with Jesus' perspective. And one of the easiest ways, the most common ways to do this, is to replace it with Scripture. So this is where the power of the Bible comes in, and it's full of words that are living and alive and transformatory within us. So to give a simple example, so it might be a phrase, it might be a verse, it might be a story, it might be an image, but something that reflects God's truth on that topic. So it might be, this is a phrase that I've thought and I've prayed, Lord, you work all things for good according to your purposes for those who love you. And so I'm asking that even with something as diabolical as cancer, that you would bring good out of this. And Hannah's just mentioned some examples of good that can come. So Lord, would you help us to have eyes to see where the good is and to be grateful for that and to honour you for that. Or another example might be, Lord, I believe that you have good plans for me, plans to prosper and not to harm and to give us a hope in the future. And so I pray that even in the middle of this situation, that you'd show me how I can be joining with you in your plans. What are the things that I can do today or this week that would advance your kingdom and which would be prospering, both personally, but also for this cause to which I've given my life, which is the advance of Jesus' name and honour and his kingdom.
Then the fourth thing is that that's going to take time. So you can't think, I'm going to go and advance Jesus' kingdom today, or I know all things work together for the good of those who love him. And you can't just think, that's it, and then you're fine. One and done. I think we all agree life doesn't normally work that way. So it's okay, how do we take those thoughts and you have almost like massage them in? You have to keep rethinking them, it's some oil or whatever, you're massaging it into your skin, or it's not even skin deep, you want it to go into your innermost being. So how can you, when you have those moments of, woe is me, this is bad, this is terrible, I'm feeling pain or whatever it is, how can you not get sucked down this hole of just self-pity and stuff like that? How can you think, no, I'm just going to use this and I'm going to, think my thoughts of gratitude, or I'm going to think how I can be on the offensive. The enemy's coming at me. Okay, how can I have a go at him? How can I be thankful? How can I witness? How can I pray for other people who are going through similar or worse things or whatever it is? So it's how do you massage those thoughts in rather than just it not being a one and done?
Yeah. So we do that. And then the final thing I want to encourage you with as we go on the offensive spiritually is to keep remembering that I am a beloved child of God, and that you are a beloved child of God, because there's this temptation to feel upset or abandoned or resentful or whatever it is. The enemy's trying to drain us. That particularly if you're having some negative news, it's not a good day, you're feeling rubbish or whatever the deal is. I think we can forget that, and I think we have to keep choosing to go back to this meta truth, this far more overarching thing, which is, who am I in Christ? So what is my identity and my core identity is that I'm a child of God, and that defines everything else. And out of that identity flows my destiny, which is, what are the good works that God has prepared in advance for me to do here on earth? And I believe there are good works for us to do in eternity, in heaven and beyond there as well. So he's given me good works to do, such as redeeming Hannah's character and that sort of thing. So
careful you.
Careful there. I've got cancer. You've got to be nice to me.
Honestly.
So all those sorts of things. But I think we keep going back to what's that fundamental identity, because that then does shape our thinking. It does change our mindset. So keep going back to that place.
So we've got those 5 specific things that we're working through, but of course there are way more than that in terms of spiritual warfare. So whether it is prayer and fasting, obviously, whether it's communion, whether it is community, whether it is just going on the offensive rather than just being on the defensive. So all those, and there are way more. We've got a whole session on spiritual warfare, but it's okay. Yeah, Lord, what can I do in this season to keep my attention on you, to keep focused on you, keep praising and worshipping you, and not let the enemy get the focus, which is what he's desperately trying to do. And he's trying to distract us from the task at hand.
So I think as we wrap up, I would encourage you, so if you're in a significant challenge season, I would perhaps invite you to think about those 5 steps that we gave you. So you keep your attention on the right things you're meant to be keeping your attention on. So maybe there's 1 or 2 of those that the Lord would really want you to focus on right now. Just kind of get your heart and your mind realigned. If you're not in a big season personally, then maybe be asking the Lord, is there a particular aspect of spiritual warfare that he wants you to take on right now, so that you can be on the offensive, you can be advancing God's kingdom. And I think by learning those disciplines, learning those practices in a more peaceful time, that they're more embedded within you. So when you go through your next difficult season, that's a well worked, well oiled rhythm in your life. So it might be prayer and fasting, like Hannah says. It might be you're just great at Thanksgiving. So one of the reasons this is not boasting. One of the things I've done for years is I will, every morning when I pray, first thing I'll pray is I'll thank God for 5 things from the previous day.
Makes you a slightly nice person.
It does, I know, which I need, I know. So therefore for me, when the Lord's invited me into being thankful in this season of hearing I've got cancer, that's something which is not that difficult to do, because I'm just used to doing it. It was a bit tougher to do, but it wasn't impossible. And so I think that's why we practice these disciplines in the more peaceful moments, so that when it's a challenging moment, you've got that, it's kind of embedded into you, it's imprinted into how you operate already. So that would be the challenge for you as you think about how to apply this, what would be perhaps 1 or 2 areas of spiritual warfare that you can be practicing now, those disciplines, those tools, so that when the next fight comes along, you've got that in your armoury and it's a well-worked tool.
So hopefully you found some of this helpful. There'll probably be further updates down the line as we go along. We don't quite know where this journey's going, probably radiation, but who knows. And we'll see. Yes, we're not going to just talk about this in our things, but these kind of 3-parter first run at this was a way of just processing this, and hopefully useful for you and your situation. So we're grateful for your prayers and your encouragements, and God bless you as you go about the rest of your day.